Are you trained to understand the difference between active and passive resistance?
Yes.
Can you tell me the difference?
Uh, Passive is dead weight, non-compliance, and active is becoming physical, trying to pull away, trying to attack.
And does the Federal Protective Service train on a use of force continuum?
Yes.
Are you expected to think about the level of resistance you're facing when you are considering where you are in that use of force continuum?
Yes.
Are you trained to use force that is proportional?
Can you define proportional?
Let me ask you, can you define proportional?
No.
Are you trained to use force that is reasonable?
Yes.
Can you define reasonable for me?
The amount of force that's necessary to get compliance.
And can you define necessary for me?
The amount of force necessary to accomplish the task. And it could be the minimum amount of force.
When you define the word necessary, you used the word necessary. Could you replace that word in providing me with a definition of necessary?
You want me to use a synonym of necessary?
Yeah, I would love to hear how you understand that term without using the term itself, if you're able.
I can't come up with one at the time.
Does the Federal Protective Service engage in crowd control?
I would need your specifics on what you call crowd control, what your definition of crowd control is. Because any more than two people is a crowd.
Have you been trained on what the word peaceful means when talking about assemblies?
Peaceful, yes.
What does that word mean?
To me, peaceful is you are lawfully doing your First Amendment rights.
How would you define not peaceful?
If you are committing a crime while saying you're doing your First Amendment, so if you, basically that, if you are committing the crime under the guise of your First Amendment rights.
Have you been trained on public order policing?
Yes.
When you received training on public order policing, were you provided any examples of protected First Amendment activity?
I don't recall. I don't recall.
Are you familiar with the term civil disobedience?
Yes.
And is that the same as civil disturbance?
I'm not a civilian law enforcement. I don't know if that's what term you're using that as.
In your public order policing training, were you trained that you're permitted to spray pepper spray against somebody engaged in civil disobedience?
Yes.
And in your public order policing training, were you trained that you are permitted to use pepper spray on people who are engaged in passive resistance?
If they're not following directives.
When you were deployed to Portland in January of 2026, did you receive any training or instruction when you arrived?
Yeah, we spent our first 2 days going through training. And one of those was PLS training.
What was the other day? What did you train on the other day?
Uh, well, I know that it was like we did some Oregon law. I honestly, I don't remember what all the days. I know that we did some like walkthroughs and walk arounds to see the area, so we know. But
kind of a site orientation.
Basically, yeah.
Do you remember which Oregon laws you were trained on?
No, it was briefly just to talk about, I'm trying to remember it. Basically, it's just we try to familiarize ourselves with how Oregon laws apply. Like prime example is open carry. We talked about how Oregon is an open carry state.
Did you talk about Oregon sanctuary laws?
I don't remember. I don't recall sanctuary laws.
Did you talk about or learn about any Oregon laws that limit the use of force?
No,
Did you receive any documents as part of your 2-day training when you arrived in Portland?
no,
So on January 19th, 2026, there was a sit-in at the Portland Ice Building, right?
correct.
Do you remember them sitting along the side of the driveway?
I do, yes, and blocking the driveway.
When you say and blocking, are you referring to the people sitting on the sides of the driveway?
No, no, no. I'm saying there were people sitting along the sides and other people blocking the driveway.
The people didn't move when they were asked to, right?
Correct.
They weren't violent, right?
Correct.
Did any of the protesters sitting in the driveway holding signs threaten you?
No,
You didn't hear them threaten any other officers, right?
no,
They were engaged in passive resistance, right?
correct.
And at some point, the Federal Protective Service decided to use force against those protesters, right?
Yes,
Who made that decision?
the incident commander.
Did the incident commander communicate to you why you were going to be using force?
Because we were trying to clear the driveway so we could have restore functions for the facility. He didn't probably say that. That's how I guess
That was your
that's how I
perception.
took it. Yeah.
Okay. Did you personally give any warnings to the protesters sitting on the ground in the driveway?
Yes.
But those commands would have been muffled by your masks, right?
Yes. Yes.
And did you give them an opportunity to comply with that order?
Uh, yeah. We gave multiple warnings before we even went outside.
So Bravo team and Charlie team were lined up behind the gate, correct?
Correct.
And some of you had pepper spray and some of you had pepper ball guns, correct?
Correct.
And you had pepper spray, right?
Correct.
And when the gates opened, you all came out and you deployed your pepper spray, correct?
Correct.
And you deployed your pepper spray on protesters sitting along the east side of the driveway, right?
Yes.
Did they threaten you?
No.
What were they doing wrong?
They were trespassing. They were not leaving federal property after being directed multiple times to leave federal property.
Because they were trespassing and not obeying your orders, you deployed pepper spray on them, is that right?
Yes.
An officer shot pepper balls at the ground at their feet and above their heads, right?
Correct.
Is it fair to say that not following directives and remaining in place is passive resistance?
Correct.
So the use of force rules for passive resistance for public order policing would have applied at this time, is that right?
Correct.
When you fill out 3155s, you do it accurately, is that fair to say?
I try to be as accurate as possible. Correct.
The subjects remained passively resistant, not following directives and remaining in place. Do you see that sentence?
Yes.
You use the term passive resistance. That's not the same as being violent, right?
Correct.
At the top of this document, on the first page, do you see ICS 209?
Yes.
You see where it says IC?
Yes.
And to the best of your recollection, was the incident commander the day of these events we've been discussing, right?
Yes.
The demonstration turned violent when approximately 20 demonstrators came onto federal property, sat down, and refused to leave. Is that the sentence you're looking at? Do you agree that things turned violent when protesters sat in the driveway?
No, I don't think that, I wouldn't consider that violent.
Can you see